couldn't fix it. I couldn't save her, and I knew. And I just told her, just come home. Come home until you get moved. Just come back home until we get the place together. Just come home. I don't trust him. I don't. Just come home. Mama, I'm not scared of him. Mama, I'm just...
This is Chhataryi Payne, a 22-year-old rookie police officer who had been on the job for less than 2 months, with a baby girl at home and everything still ahead of her.
At approximately 8:20 p.m. on January 9, 2019, Shreveport police officers responded to a 911 call from a residence in the 1600 block of Midway Avenue in reference to a female suffering from a gunshot wound. Within minutes, officers arrived on scene and located uniformed officer Chhataryi Payne, who was gravely injured from at least one gunshot wound and was fighting for her life.
The man who called 911 to report it was the same man who pulled the trigger. Chhataryi Elise Payne was born on June 30th, 1996 in Shreveport, Louisiana, a city in the deep South where everybody sort of knows everybody, or at least knows somebody who does. People who grew up around her said she was one of those personalities you just do not forget. She was bold, full of energy, and genuinely funny, the kind of person who lights up whatever room she walks into. Her mother, Lakeitha Nash Hudson, had a nickname for her, Lice, and described her as the biggest diva you've ever known, and also the girliest of girl tomboys, which honestly just means she was fully herself all the time, and did not feel the need to pick one lane. She was a track athlete at Captain Shreve High School and graduated in 2014. And after that, her path went in a few different directions before it found its shape. She had gotten into the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, but was not fully sure about going right away. So Chhataryi started at Beausier Parish Community College and later moved to Southern University at Shreveport, where she was working toward becoming a radiology technician. She also had a creative side that most of the news coverage kind of glosses over. She wrote poetry, sang, did some acting, and her mother mentioned she had even thought about going into entertainment law at one point.
She actually wanted to do entertainment law. A lot of people don't know that, but she wanted to do entertainment law. She wanted to represent people.
So it came as a shock when her daughter decided to switch careers.
One day she was like, I applied to the police academy and I'm going to take my civil service test. And I was like, what?
The point is, Chhataryi was doing what most people in their early 20s do, which is try different things and figure out where you fit. And she was doing it while raising a young daughter on top of everything else. Then, sometime in 2018, something clicked for her. She told her mother out of nowhere that she had applied to the Shreveport Police Academy and was going to sit for the civil service exam. Her mother was genuinely surprised. Her friends were worried about her safety. Her best friend, Quinterica Monroe, remembered Chhataryi telling her straight up, "This is me. This is what I'm going to do," with certainty. Another close friend, Tramikia Ashley, who had known her since their middle school dance team days, said she was scared for her because the job felt too dangerous. But Chhataryi was not looking for permission, and she was not looking to debate it. She entered recruit class 79 of the Shreveport Police Academy and graduated on November 16, 2018. The police chief at the time was the one who handed her the diploma and later said he saw real excitement in her eyes when she crossed that stage. She wrote a mission statement when she joined the force, and it is worth reading because it tells you exactly who she was and why she did this. Long days, aching nights, but I decided to stand tall on my dream. My personal mission is to become that positive influence, to protect those who can't protect themselves, and to at least try to push someone to being a better version of themselves. It is an honor to be able to join such a powerful family with my brothers and sisters in blue. May the journey begin. Now, while all of this was going on, Chhataryi was also living with her boyfriend, Travion DeMarcus Anderson, who was 26 years old at the time, and the father of her roughly 2-year-old daughter. They shared a home at 1633 Midway Avenue in Shreveport's Caddo Heights neighborhood, and on the surface, Anderson looked like he was in her corner. When she graduated from the academy, he posted about it on social media, saying it had been a long journey and that he was proud of the woman she had become and that he loved her. He made himself look like a supportive partner in public, but what court filings and trial evidence would later reveal was that behind closed doors, the relationship was toxic and controlling, and Anderson was getting more and more jealous as Chhataryi's career moved forward.
This is actually a pattern that shows up over and over in cases like this. The more independent she became, the more of a threat it felt like to him. Family members describe the relationship as volatile, and while no specific past incidents appear in the public record, what happened in the weeks leading up to January 9th makes the pattern very clear. By that point, Chhataryi had made up her mind. She was done with the relationship and Anderson. She had already started making plans to leave him and move into her own place with her daughter. That decision, the decision to take her life back, is exactly what cost her everything.
At approximately 8:20 p.m. on January 9, 2019, Shreveport police officers responded to a 911 call from a residence in the 1600 block of Midway Avenue in reference to a female suffering from a gunshot wound. Within minutes, officers arrived on scene and located uniformed officer Chhataryi Payne, who was gravely injured from at least one gunshot wound and was fighting for her life. The Shreveport Fire Department rushed Officer Payne to Ochsner Health Center for immediate treatment for her life-threatening injuries. Despite their best efforts, Officer Payne succumbed to her injuries within hours after having been transported to the hospital. Every life is precious, and the taking of any human life is unacceptable. But when a servant who has taken an oath and committed their life to protecting others is violently taken from us, we all collectively feel the pain of that loss. It has been said when a police officer is killed, it is not an agency that loses an officer, it's an entire nation. Those words solemnly ring true today. This morning, as I address you, we have many more questions than answers, but the dedicated men and women who investigate these kinds of violent crimes for the Shreveport Police Department are the finest anywhere, and they are diligently working as we speak to get those questions answered. At the early stage of the investigation, we are not willing to rule out anything. We will follow every lead wherever they may take us, and we will work to identify and apprehend the coward or cowards responsible for the brutal murder of Officer Payne.
What most people do not realize about the night Chhataryi was killed is that it was not some sudden decision Anderson made in the heat of the moment. This thing was planned out days in advance, and the planning involved more than just Anderson. His cousin, Lawrence Pierre II, was 22 years old at the time and working a regular 9-to-5 as a clerk at the Caddo Parish Juvenile Court. In the days and hours leading up to January 9th, Anderson and Pierre had been texting back and forth about Chhataryi's movements, tracking her schedule, figuring out when she would be outside and alone, and waiting for the right time. Anderson was inside the house with their daughter, and Pierre was positioned nearby, and the two of them were coordinating the whole thing through their phones like they were planning something ordinary. There was also a third person in the picture, at least to some degree. Glenn Frierson, who was 38 years old and worked as a barber, was another cousin of Anderson and Pierre. He had been asked by Pierre to give him a ride that evening, and his cell phone was later shown to have been pinging near the Midway Avenue address around the time of the shooting. Whether he knew exactly what was about to happen is something the courts would eventually have to work out, but he was in the area and part of the movement of people around that scene.
At some point during the evening of January 9th, Anderson sent Pierre a message letting him know that Chhataryi was outside, and that was the signal. At around 8:20 that night, Chhataryi walked out her front door in full police uniform, heading toward her patrol vehicle to start her overnight shift, with her 2-year-old daughter still inside the house. She was shot multiple times, including once in the head with a .40 caliber handgun before she ever reached her car. That weapon was not her service gun, which means it was brought to that scene for the specific purpose of killing her.
Officers arrived within minutes, found her in the driveway in her uniform, still fighting for her life, and rushed her to Auctioner LSU Health Hospital, less than a mile away. She held on for about 2 hours, and then she was gone. 22 years old, less than 2 months into the job she had dreamed about. Meanwhile, Anderson called 911 and delivered the story he had ready. He said an unknown person dressed all in black had appeared out of nowhere and shot his girlfriend, and that he had gone outside, seen Chhataryi on the ground, and fired back at this mystery person before calling for help. He kept that story calm and consistent when detectives sat him down for questioning later that same night. Because investigators did not yet have enough to charge him, they had no choice but to release him, and Chhataryi's killer walked out of the police station and went home.
Officer Chhataryi Payne was fatally shot in the driveway of her own home on Midway Avenue, January 9th. She was found in her car, clothed in her uniform, heading to clock in for her shift. The 911 call came in from her boyfriend, Travion Anderson, who was taken in for questioning that night.
What Anderson did not count on was that Lawrence Pierre had been standing right there when it happened, and that information was sitting on his conscience. He also did not think carefully enough about what was on his own phone. Investigators who worked the case in the days that followed were pulling on every thread they could find, and one of the things they eventually uncovered from Anderson's deleted data were Google searches about gunshot wounds made in the days before January 9th. The same man who called 911 pretending to be a panicked, grieving boyfriend had been researching how bullets move through the human body before he ever pulled that trigger. As the city of Shreveport held vigils for a fallen officer and a memorial grew outside the police station, the investigation was working quietly behind the scenes, and the unknown shooter in black story was already starting to fall apart. Anderson had bought himself 1 night of freedom, but the clock was already running out on him, and it would be one of his own family members who handed police everything they needed. The breakthrough came on January 15, 2019, exactly 1 week after the murder, when detectives brought in Lawrence Pierre II for questioning. Pierre did not hold out very long. He admitted that he had been there the night Chhataryi was shot, that he had personally watched Anderson shoot her multiple times, and that after it happened, he had taken the .40 caliber murder weapon and hidden it to keep it away from police. Then he told investigators he would take them to where it was. That same afternoon, police recovered the gun near Crofton and Spring Streets, and by 7:45 that evening, Anderson and a third man, Glenn Frierson, another cousin who had driven Pierre to and from the scene, were both in custody.
3 men have been charged with the murder of Shreveport police officer Chhataryi Payne, including the father of her child. Good evening, I'm Alexandra Meacham. Dan and Jackie have the night off. NBC6's Julius Kitty joins us live from the Shreveport Police Department with tonight's top story. Julius.
Well, Alice, it's been exactly 1 week since Officer Chhataryi Payne's untimely murder, and today was the first day in serving justice in that investigation.
We can have some peace in taking 3 evil cowards off of our streets so they cannot harm anyone else.
Officer Chhataryi Payne was fatally shot in the driveway of her own home on Midway Avenue, January 9th. She was found in her car, clothed in her uniform, heading to clock in for her shift. The 911 call came in from her boyfriend, Travion Anderson, who was taken in for questioning that night. 7 days went by until arrests were finally made. The first arrest was 21-year-old Lawrence Pierre, who was the cousin of Anderson, according to an arrest report. It says Pierre admitted being present during the murder. It also says he voluntarily led police to where he hid the weapon. 38-year-old Glenn Frierson was also arrested. The affidavit reports he accompanied Pierre to and from the murder. Police say it was Anderson who they believe pulled the trigger.
It's just a tragic that somebody that you loved or you have loved, you have a child together, that would be responsible for your death. That's to me, it's awful.
This is the time for us to stand united as a community and support the family of Officer Payne.
Chief Raymond credits social media for leads.
There were a number of investigative tools utilized, and technology certainly plays a role in all investigations.
All
three men were charged with second-degree murder, and the day after the arrests, Shreveport Police Chief Ben Raymond held a press conference and said it plainly. We believe Anderson shot and killed her, then concocted the false narrative of her being murdered by an unknown suspect.
We believe Anderson shot and killed her and concocted the false narrative of her being murdered by an unknown suspect. Two other men, Pierre and Frierson, have been charged in connection with the murder as well. We have also recovered the weapon we believe to have been used. All three men were arrested and charged with second-degree murder. We will never understand the evil that exists in this world. One of my favorite quotes is, "The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing." Thank God for the men and women who proudly wear a uniform every day. Women like Officer Chhataryi Payne, who willingly took an oath to serve the citizens of this city. We may never know whether Officer Payne's chosen profession contributed to her death, but we do know a uniformed police officer was killed moments before beginning her shift.
He confirmed Pierre and Frierson as accomplices and told the public the investigation was ongoing and that the district attorney's office was reviewing all the evidence. Chhataryi's mother went on camera around the same time and addressed Anderson directly, telling him that from that moment forward, he no longer existed to her and calling him a cowardly, sick psychopath. The whole city of Shreveport knew his name, and now the legal system had him. A Caddo Parish grand jury formally indicted all three men in March of 2019, and then the case entered the slower, more grinding phase of the court system. Frierson's situation got complicated fast because he was already facing separate federal charges that had nothing to do with the murder. Back in May of 2018, months before Chhataryi was killed, a search warrant at his barbershop had uncovered 28 grams of methamphetamine and a loaded pistol, which he was not allowed to have because of a prior felony drug conviction from 2009. He pleaded guilty to those federal charges in August of 2019 and was sentenced to 151 months in federal prison, which works out to about 12 and a half years, and he started serving that time while the murder trial was still being prepared.
The state trial for Anderson and Frierson eventually got scheduled for April of 2022, 3 years after Chhataryi's death. And on the morning of April 4th, the same morning jury selection was supposed to start, Lawrence Pierre walked into that courtroom and flipped the script on his own case. He pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was immediately sentenced to life in prison without any chance of parole, probation, or early release. In exchange, prosecutors dropped the conspiracy charge against him, and he agreed to testify against Anderson and Frierson in the trial that was now starting without him. He turned to the families in the courtroom and apologized for putting them through everything they had been through. That cooperation, though, turned out to be more complicated than prosecutors probably hoped. When Pierre was called to the witness stand during the trial on April 14th, he sat there and refused to answer a single question. He just kept saying he preferred not to answer over and over, despite the plea deal and despite being under a court order to testify. He had already pled guilty and was already serving life, so there was basically nothing left to hold over him. But prosecutors came prepared for exactly that scenario. They played his original police interrogation video for the jury, the one where he sat across from detectives in the days after the murder and described watching Anderson shoot Chhataryi multiple times with his own eyes before hiding the weapon. The jury got to hear it all directly from Pierre in his own voice, even if he was not willing to say it again out loud in that courtroom. And then prosecutors laid out everything else. Assistant District Attorney Brittany Green told the jury in her opening statement that Anderson had created a plot, a plan, a conspiracy because Chhataryi was leaving him and she was taking their daughter with her. The evidence she laid out backed all of it up.
The text messages between Anderson and Pierre showed the two of them coordinating Chhataryi's movements in the days and hours before the shooting, watching her schedule and waiting for the moment Anderson texted that she was outside. The cell phone location data placed Anderson, Pierre, and Frierson near the Midway Avenue home right around the time of the murder, which matched the timeline the texts had already laid out. The deleted Google searches about gunshot wounds recovered from Anderson's phone by forensic investigators showed the jury what kind of thinking he had been doing before that night. And on top of all of that, his fabricated 911 story, which directly contradicted the physical evidence at the scene and everything Pierre had already told police, was presented to the jury as exactly what it was: a guilty man trying to cover his tracks. The defense tried to use the DNA evidence as a way to create doubt. A forensic analyst from the Northwest Louisiana Crime Lab testified that the main DNA profile found on the murder weapon did not match Anderson or Frierson, but belonged to a different person altogether. Defense attorneys leaned on that as their best argument for reasonable doubt, and for Frierson specifically, it worked. His phone had pinged near the scene, and he had given Pierre a ride, but there were no texts, no statements, and no physical evidence showing he knew what was about to happen or that he was part of the plan to kill Chhataryi. The jury acquitted him on both counts on April 20th, 2022. Anderson was a different story. The jury found him guilty of both second-degree murder and conspiracy to commit second-degree murder on the same day. The DNA argument did not save him because the rest of the evidence, taken all together, told a story that was too clear to walk away from.
We have an update now in Caddo District Court today. The man convicted of killing Shreveport police officer Chhataryi Payne is sentenced to life in prison. Trevion Anderson was found guilty last month of Officer Payne's murder.
The jury, convinced by prosecutors that Anderson was upset Payne was going to leave him and take the couple's 2-year-old child with her. Prosecutors proved Anderson and Lawrence Pierre ambushed Officer Payne and gunned her down as she was leaving for work.
On May 31st, 2022, Judge John Mosley sentenced Trevion DeMarcus Anderson to life in prison without the possibility of parole, probation, or any early release for the murder charge, plus the maximum 30 years for the conspiracy charge, with both sentences running back to back. The Caddo Parish District Attorney's Office said in their statement that he had planned and executed the murder of the mother of his child as she prepared to begin her patrol shift. Before the sentence was read, Chhataryi's mother stood up and looked at the man who killed her daughter and said this has destroyed our family. It will never be the same. To the world, she was Officer Payne, but to me, she was Lice. We are mourning Lice, and it all seems so unfair. I talk to her every day, and I can't just call her. Still, I pick up the phone to call her, even though I know she won't answer. Her baby girl graduated kindergarten last week, and her mommy wasn't there. It's so unfair to her. She tries to hold on to the memories that she has of her mom. She was my first child, my love, still is, and regardless, she'll always be my love. I lost my child, but her baby lost her mom, her dad, and even her grandmother, because now her grandmother has had to become mom. Anderson sat there and showed almost no reaction to any of it. He is in prison right now, serving life plus 30 years with no way out.
Batch 3029 to dispatch. Batch 39 to dispatch 1033, east and west. Final call.
East and west side for the final call.
Dispatch to 1588. Dispatch to badge 1588. Dispatch to badge 1588, Officer Chhataryi Elise Payne. Officer Chhataryi Elise Payne, badge 1588. Thank you for your honor, your loyalty, integrity, commitment, and your dream. Thank you for your service to the city of Shreveport, your neighboring communities, agencies, and the United States of America. You've made the people proud, your family, your officers. We're so proud. Your sacrifices will not be forgotten. We have the watch now. Rest in peace, Officer Chhataryi Elise Payne, badge 1588, code 8, forever. (3029) clear.
Dispatch all units 1034. Resume normal traffic, 12:30 hours.
The Shreveport Police Department still holds annual remembrances for her.
Officers followed Payne's procession all the way to her final resting place, crossing major streets in the city. NBC6's Julius Kizzy brings us a look.
It's supportive. You gotta support your people. You gotta support your troops.
Rows of family and friends lined the streets to send off fallen officer Chhataryi Payne.
I think it's great. It's lovely to see everybody come together for the fallen officer and her family.
The 3-mile procession was a final goodbye to the streets of Shreveport, the same streets she swore to protect.
It show you that a lot of people really care. It show you that you got people behind you, like family-wise, friends. It don't matter what happens. One thing about Shreveport, like if we lose a loved one, everybody will come together.
Everyone from even outside the city.
Both sides of the parish, like both Webster Parish, Bossier Parish, they all come together when someone's going down. Like they're showing so much love to the family.
Paying their respects.
I hope so. I really do, because they need to put the guns down and stop all the violence.
And as of 2026, the 7th anniversary of her death, her daughter is growing up without her mother. Her grandmother is now raising her. This is what it actually looks like when someone in an abusive relationship decides to leave. It does not always look like a fight or a public scene. Sometimes it looks like a supportive comment on social media and a man on the phone telling his cousin that she just stepped outside. What do you think about this case? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story hit different for you, make sure you tap one of the cards on your screen, because there is another case connected to this one that goes even deeper.